we are so much better at saying no and being fearful and having all the negative emotions that's how we manifest all this negative stuff.
Mm.
And people go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And then once they realize they're great manifestors, then we can take and package the exact same mechanism that they use to manifest bad stuff to manifest good stuff. Same mechanism, just have to change the emotion.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I am thrilled to have Pablo Paul Lemberg on the show. We've been trying to get this podcast together for probably a year now.
Sounds about right.
And I always say these conversations happen at the perfect time, whether it's you're going to reach more people now because I have a bigger audience. You have new products out that we're going to talk about. So I'm really excited that we're here right now together, and it's going to be such a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Annika.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. You became an entrepreneur at 27. You sold your first company for just under $9 million. You sold your second company. You've had 3 books, including Be Unreasonable, love the name, a business bestseller. And you have turned all of that into coaching entrepreneurs, small businesses, Fortune 100s, helping them double, triple, 100x their revenues through your methodologies. So I know that's a fairly large and general.
That's a nice chunk to bite off.
Yes. So let's start with that first company. Did you always know that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
No, I never knew I was going to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I was raised by people who were, I can say it, they're dead. I was raised by people who were communists, who believed in the communist way of life.
Okay.
And they believed in it because they were what I call secular humanists.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, incorrectly, I believe, but they thought that system was a humanistic system. They thought it gave people at the lowest rungs a chance.
Mm.
I think they were completely misguided, but that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
And so, no, I never thought in the slightest bit that I was going to be an entrepreneur. It was an accident. I had a client, I was working at General Electric in an information services company. And I had a client who was looking for a young, enthusiastic guy with chops and who wanted an opportunity. And I was that guy.
Mm.
And so together we built a company that ended up writing software for giant banks. And eventually all of the mistakes that we made drove us to a desperate need for money. And nobody was investing this was in 1983, nobody was investing in small software companies. So we couldn't raise anything. We couldn't raise debt. We couldn't get anything. And we needed money. And what came along was a company who was doing banking software for the US. And we were doing banking software for the international market. And those guys had just gone public. They were awash with cash. And they came along and we were having some legal problems. So they could have really stole our company from us. They could have bought our company for the price of our legal problems. And I don't know. See, this is where I've started to believe in spirit that guided them to give us a very sweet deal. And that was my exit. But my intro was, I had a client who needed somebody like me. I was a young kid.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so you talk about this concept of where you started believing that spirit guides things. And part of what we're going to talk about today, of course, is quantum reality creation, which is your newest of, gosh, you've done so much. You have so many different programs. You've been on such great stages with people sharing your message. So when you got that inkling that, something was happening here, because they could have treated you very differently, but they treated you fairly in your estimation. Yeah. So then what path did that lead you down?
Well, so I didn't catch on so quickly. I'm kind of a slow learner. but I've had enough of these experiences that are, people who worship science would say, and my parents who were, worship communism would have said I had a soft mind. That this was, believing in the spirit is like, requires all suspension of disbelief. And what I say about this now is that I've had too many experiences that are inexplicable any other way. And so that's not a very scientific point of view, but it is the point of view that I own. And since I've chosen to own it, I've had more and more of these experiences. So this program that you mentioned, the quantum reality creation, which I have up on my background there, came to me as a result of my asking in my journaling one night, asking for an idea that I was going to get excited about, that I was going to be able to run with really easily, and that blended spirit and magic and entrepreneurship. And that was my ask. It's, wasn't a specific ask. It was a fairly general ask, but that was my ask. The next morning, I woke up with this entire program fully fleshed out in my mind.
Wow.
Again, I'm a slow learner. So it took me a couple of days to realize that that was the answer to my request. I didn't catch on for about 2 days.
Well, that's not being too slow of a learner. I mean, 2 days.
Well, 2 days.
It could have been 2 years.
Right. But the thing showed up like the next day, And I created this program it normally takes me 6 to 8 months to create a program. I created this program from start to finish in 4 weeks. I've been polishing it for 2 weeks. So it's been in existence. Its existence started 6 weeks ago, and we launched it about 10 days ago.
Okay.
But but that kind of thing happens to me.
Yeah.
Where, you make a request and boom, there it is. It shows up.
Well, I want to dive deeper into this, but I want to talk about first going from selling your company to then being on major stages, writing best-selling books, becoming a consultant. How did you jump from, being in your 20s, late 20s,
There's
to
no
your early
clear
30s?
path to it.
No.
I was 30 years old when we sold the company and was kind of an instant millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Instant, after putting in 4 years in the company. But I put it in. I had made a lot of bad lifestyle choices. I had a bad divorce that cost me half of it, and the IRS wants its share. And then the lifestyle choices kind of take over. We built a second company. I was fired from the company, but they paid me to not work for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And they paid me nicely not to work for 3 years. So I had some time on my hands, but somewhere along the way, they violated our agreement. And what that meant was that the non-compete was broken.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately started the company again. And I started it with cash flow because we serviced the clients of the first company.
Nice.
So we did that. That company got sold. That company got sold to a German bank. And I didn't really like working for the Germans. That didn't suit me that well. I don't really like working for anybody. I'm not really employable. But we did that for a while, sold that company. I went from there. I spent a year as a stockbroker, I was kind of miserable. I was good at it, but I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't creating value for people. I didn't think. I was helping people make a little more money, but maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah.
You find some older couple and you take them out of Ford and put them into General Motors. It's like, this isn't really helping the world. But I did that for a year. I was pretty good at it. And I learned a lot about working on the phone, which was great. I mean, that was really great experience. So that's always helped. I went from there. I got a job working in a market research and strategy company, which is also another great skill set. Understanding market research is a really powerful skill set for an entrepreneur. So I did that for a few years. And then One day I woke up and the voice in my head said, "You're not doing your life's work. You're getting older. You'd better get busy." And I was like, who said that? I mean, it was like someone was speaking to me. I was like, who said that? And I'm looking around and I said, what's that mean? And the voice said the exact same thing over again. And I was like, okay, that's not helpful. But I had quit my job by the end of the week because I just knew I'm not the kind of person who juggles multiple things well. I'm not the kind of person who would be great looking for a job while I had a job,
Yeah.
or be great figuring out what my next move was going to be. I had no idea. And one of the things that I believe is that when God wants you to know something and you're not paying attention, that God will put the message everywhere and anywhere it can. And what I kept getting from my friends was, you should be a coach. You should be a coach. You should be a coach. And I'm like, I don't want to be a coach because I'm thinking coach is like a therapist.
Right.
I don't want to be a coach. I'm not interested in people's personal problems. And I mean, this is what was coming out of my mouth. And somebody, I don't remember who said it, but somebody smart said to me, don't coach them in their lives, coach their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's something I could do. And I hung out my shingle. And that's how I started in coaching. That was in 1996.
Okay. Amazing.
I had one of the first websites of anybody. I built a website because I knew that somehow that would matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I built a website and I learned how to write because I knew that writing would help. And I learned how to speak because I knew that speaking would help. I would speak anywhere. I once spoke in a Kiwanis club where a guy actually fell asleep in his suit.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I get to the door. I have my hand on the door. I'm leaving this restaurant. And his hand on my shoulder says, wait, don't go. He says, that was the liveliest they've ever been. I'm like, lively? This guy was sleeping in his suit. But, that led to some more business. Some
Oh,
woman came up to me who she and her father ran a chain of funeral homes and they hired me to work with them. And then she brought me to this Chamber of Commerce and I spoke there. And that was my first paid gig ever. She says, what do you charge? I had no idea. So I just said $500. And she was like, we can afford that. And I was like, oh, I'm getting paid to speak. And I was terrible. I was just terrible, but I had great content. So I just got up there and did my great content badly and vowed to become a good speaker. So I worked really hard at being a speaker. And I worked really hard at being a writer. And all of those things led to lots and lots of opportunities. And the fun part for me about being an entrepreneur is how it's different from moment to moment, how it changes so much from moment to moment. I was in a conversation and some young woman said to me one day, she says, it must be very stressful never knowing where your money's coming from. And I said, that's not stressful at all. I said, what would be stressful would be to show up at 9:00 to do the same job I did yesterday and have to do it till 5:00, whether I had work to do or not.
yeah.
And that's kind of my whole take on being an entrepreneur. It's like, it's just exciting, and there's always something going on. I believe that being an entrepreneur is the greatest personal development program there is.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I will co-sign that.
Right? You have to develop yourself. And it's never a set program. The program is like changing from day to day, but you're always having to develop yourself to meet the next challenge.
Yeah.
And whether you choose to do that or not, your choice. But I've worked it hard.
Yeah. Well,
I've worked that hard.
You've done a lot of things to build up your skill set in different areas. You've said yes to opportunities when they presented themselves. And I think those are two of the biggest things that you have to be able to do if you're going to be a true entrepreneur. There are entrepreneurs who start businesses, I think about my world of marketing and digital and PR and branding, and they start their business and they're very happy to run that business for their whole life, right? And I think that you and I are more on the same wavelength of, yes, I do PR. I do it as an employee for a nonprofit foundation where I'm also executive director. But I'm also able to create new projects within that ecosystem. So I get to be an entrepreneur, which makes it fun for me, while I still get to pursue other things that I find interesting. And we have to be lifelong learners. We have to be willing to be open to opportunities and to listening to those voices that are telling us this is not your path or this is. And that's so important. I've walked away from people who've listened to this podcast have heard these stories, but I've walked away from 2 great jobs in the past few years because once I got into them, realized, oh, this is not for me. And I didn't have an exit plan, but I just was like, it's time for me to go.
You just
It's not a
go.
fit. It wasn't that that the agencies thought I wasn't a fit because they would have happily kept me. But I was like, I can't take this paycheck if I don't feel like I can add value and that I'm really invested in what you're doing because it's not in alignment with me. So, and then new opportunities present themselves all the time.
Yes. Yes, they do. Are you familiar with human design? Do you know what that is? Okay. So the biggest coaching I've gotten from human design is to not make snap decisions.
Hmm.
That my particular type, I love making snap decisions.
But
I love just going like that. And my particular type says that I need to get over the emotional aspect of it before I make my decision.
Which type are you?
I am a generator with emotional authority.
Okay. I'm also a generator. And I think people often misconstrue what that means because they think, oh, that means you're the one who's like working. And I'm like, we're actually visionaries. And yes, but we're also willing to do the work where we need to. So, but I do also, like you, I'm probably also that emotional because
Do you have emotion, or you have emotional authority?
I'd have to look at my chart, but
That's really key.
I do make snap decisions when I don't feel like this is something for me. And I've thought about like, how do I get out of that pattern? But also I feel like snap decisions for you have been a bonus in some parts of your life.
They have, but they've also, I don't know. I'm just following the coaching. Yeah. And the coaching was really clear and it felt like it fit because I'm such a snap decision maker. So the coaching was never say yes to anything on the spot. That no matter what, just tell them, you know what, I have to sleep on this. And let the emotional wave ride its curve and then make a decision that doesn't have to do with the emotional wave. Because the way I am wired, I am enthusiastic. I am passionate.
Yeah.
And those things can get you in trouble if they're pointed at the wrong thing.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the coaching is about. It's like, no, you're too enthusiastic. It's like, you need to like temper that a little bit. And the way I temper it is I stop saying yes to things immediately. And I give it a day or so.
Okay. A day or so is still not that much time. So it's enough time for you to still be excited, enthusiastic, but also feel have some rational decision making behind it.
If I'm not still enthusiastic, I won't say yes.
Yeah.
That's
a good indicator.
My superpower. So, I run with that.
So you started speaking, you started sharing your methods, you started getting clients because of your speaking engagements. And then it seems like it snowballed from there. And now, I mean, over the time that you've been coaching, you've created many programs. You've written many books. You've been on major stages. And you've helped all sizes of companies. How did all of that fit into your life and your path?
So my purpose in the world has been, and it hasn't changed for a really long time, so I just assume this is my purpose. My purpose is helping other entrepreneurs be successful. My personal slogan is changing the world one entrepreneur at a time.
Hmm.
And I have sought to do that in any way that I can over the past, it's now 29 years. So it's easy for me to evaluate whether something's for me or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now working, my new framework is the three I's. And the three I's are impact, influence, and income. And if it doesn't have all three of those, it's not a fit.
Yeah. That's
Right?
actually a really good construct. I might have to steal it.
Be my guest. Yeah. It came to me as part of this quantum reality creation program. It showed up. And that's a really good framework for me. So it's like, I know what my mission, I know what my purpose is, I know what my mission is, and it's really easy to evaluate whether or not something is a fit or not. Mm-hmm. This program, I mentioned to you, this program sort of came to me, and it came to me whole and complete, and it came to me, and it was so obviously what I wanted to do next. Right? I was like, oh man, it's like, how thankful could I be? It came to me. It's a fit for my mission. It's a fit for what I wanted to do next, which was to create a program that blended spirit and magic and business. I did one before and didn't like it. I sold it. I made a bunch of money from it, but I never was really happy because I didn't like the program. I played it too safe. This program is anything but safe. And I was looking for something to combine those three things, and I was getting stuck because I had this other one in my head. And this thing it showed up. It's like I said, I believe in things that just show up. Yeah. And it just showed up and allowed me to create it in record time. And the people who are in my early group of members, the conversations I'm having with them, everyone starts with, I love this program. Like every single person, the first words out of their mouth, I'm like, yes. Like
entrepreneurs often, we come up with programs that we think people need. They may or may not need them, depending on, how we really market tested. Or is this based on our own intuition? You've obviously built multiple programs over the years. And so you're more fine-tuned into what may work and what may not work. And
I'm going to cut you off right there.
Okay.
I'm going to cut you off right there. I don't usually do that. But one of the things I teach inside of this program is you don't do your best work based on what the market needs. Okay. You do your best work based on what you're motivated to do, what you are called to do. So, I am actually like a poster child for like the reverse, of what you were just talking about, which is I built this program out without even thinking about if anybody wanted it. And I did worry about it. Don't get me wrong. I was concerned the entire time thinking, I'm building this thing out. Does anybody care? It's a little bit out there. It's a little woo. It's like, am I going to be able to sell it? I didn't know. But I was talking to myself in the program saying the work to do is the work you are called to do, not what the market thinks you should be doing. And I think that so many entrepreneurs go wrong because now I have a background in market research. I believe in market research, but you got to use it for the right things. And for me, it's like so many entrepreneurs go wrong because they create this thing because they think there's a demand. Mm-hmm. They heard some guru or some speaker say there's a demand for this, this, and this, and then that's what they go and create. But they're not happy.
Right.
They're not connected to source. They're not aligned with that vision of themselves. Yeah. And I just throwing caution to the wind, I built this thing and I am convinced this is my best work ever. I'm really, really excited about it because it's just so aligned with who I want to be.
How did all of these other opportunities come to you before you're now created this program? You obviously spoke a lot and
I spoke a lot
out there. And then was it word of mouth? Were you marketing yourself to?
I was willing to talk to anyone. And I I did a program 15 years ago called Formula 5. And Formula 5 was an outstanding success. We did a $2 million launch in the absolute depths of the 2008 recession, at the absolute nadir of the economy and public sentiment and all that stuff. We chose the launch program. And the launch was masterminded by a guy who's a genius at launches. I'm not. And we did a $2 million launch. So that put me in the spotlight in the internet marketing world. That elevated my position very much. And it got the attention of a lot of big name people who promoted me.
Amazing.
And I just say, I'm one of those people. I say yes. Now I say yes 2 days later, but I say yes, and people say, well, would you do this program for us? I'm like, sure, why not? I have a friend who has the worst sales skills imaginable. His personality is completely flat unless he's talking about things he cares about.
Mm.
And he used to, and he's a WordPress and Infusionsoft guy. So he's great at integrating those things. And he has he's unique among contractors in that he finishes what he starts and he does what he says he's going to do. So that's kind of unique, but he's the worst salesman in the world. And if he doesn't know something like down to the most small detail, he says, no, he doesn't know it. So I had to teach him to just start saying yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, just say yes. And you're smart. You'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Right? So I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure, I can do that. It's like, I don't know, can I do it or not? But I don't really worry about it because I've just always said yes. So I think that helped me a lot. I got to be a good speaker. I had great content. I got to be a decent writer. I had a best-selling business book. Not a best-selling book. I wasn't on any lists. But, to be a best-selling business book, you only have to sell about 10,000 copies. So that's not a lot. To get on a bestseller list, you got to sell a lot more than that. But, I had a best-selling business book, which was great. It's like, I just knew where I was going and I had no idea where I was going to get there, but I just kept following my nose, so to speak. And I listened to the guidance. It started showing up. I talk to people about God all the time. This is not like, your regular conversations, but I talk to people about God all the time. And I say, doesn't God talk to you? Mm-hmm. And they go, no, God doesn't talk to me. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, do you ask God to talk to you? And they go, no. I said, well, maybe you ought to try that. And, that sometimes works. I said, but then once you do, there has to be enough space in your mind to hear God.
To listen, to actually.
Yeah. You got to be willing to listen. You got to be willing to not worry about being right and just worry about what you're hearing and then figure out what it means. Who knows what this stuff means half the time? Wow. God is opaque. When I ask for signs, I always say, and please make sure that the sign is very easy to notice and very easy to interpret so that I won't have any confusion around what's going on. I don't know if this had happened the last time we spoke. I channeled a book at one point. I was complaining that I wasn't sure about the material I was writing. I felt like I was making some of it up. And this friend and coach of mine said to me, you're not making this up. He says, they are giving it to you. And you should show some respect and some gratitude, which was like, I'm saying, well, I'm just making this shit up. And, he says, no, it's all right. It's all accurate. They are handing it to you and you should show some respect and some gratitude. Yeah. So I said, I don't know, I haven't been doing this for hundreds of years. I'm not the kind of person they give stuff to, So I decided, let me try this on and see how it feels. So I left there. And for the rest of the day, I said, guys, I need a sign. I refer to God as guys. I say, guys, I need a sign. I said, I need a sign that this is true. I need a sign that you're giving me this stuff. And I said, I need it to be unequivocal. I need to be able to understand it. That night, I ended up channeling a book. And what that means is I was writing in my journal. I was sitting outside. It was summer. I was sitting outside. I was writing in my journal and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, my laptop was on my lap and there was a manuscript. And I was like,
Wow.
what's this? And I really didn't understand it. But as I read it, and it needed some polishing, it wasn't like the best
Yeah, but
writing, but there was stuff in there that I hadn't known before. So I was like, this is really interesting. What is this exactly? Yeah. So it took me till the next day. Like I said, I'm slow. It took me till the next day, and all of a sudden it hits me. It's like, oh, that's the sign I was looking for. Right? It's like, oh, they're handing me stuff. And I think they've been handing me stuff all along.
yeah. And that's what we talk about when, I mean, in the creative world, talking about the muse. And if you don't say yes to something, somebody else is going to be open to it, receive that gift. And then you may say, oh, I had that idea for that movie, that film, that TV show, that book, that project. Well, it wasn't, you may have had part of the idea, but it was really the universe, God saying, here you go. And then if you don't take advantage of it, okay, you don't want this? I know somebody else who wants it. And I think it's really in these, kind of crazy times, not going to get into politics and stuff that we're living in. And this world of AI, one thing I argue about with AI is that it actually gives us more time to be human and to live in our creativity and our source and be open and have time to be creative and strategic and have really intentional time with ourselves, really intentional time with our family and our loved ones. And I think that, I just recently had a conversation maybe last week with somebody who is more scientifically driven, who's now realized that we talk maybe on the woo-woo side about how you're the sum of every person who's come before you. So what happened to, I have amazing ancestors in Thailand and Laos, and what happened to them is still inside me. And whether it's trauma or whether it's positive, whether it's traits. And now that's scientifically proven that, yes, you can have generational trauma, not from things that happened to you in this lifetime, but things that happened to your ancestors. And so I think what you're saying of this blend of magic and science and spirituality is exactly what we're at that crux point, that inflection point, perhaps, where more people are starting to awaken the idea that when we're talking about these concepts that they can't grasp, they actually are rooted in science. And it is actually God, source speaking to you. And, and then we're here to, of course, we have talents and gifts that we have. And we have to add all of these things together to create.
Yeah. And be open to whatever comes through. I really love what you're saying about giving us more room to be human. I posted something on Facebook. It was, one of these word tile things. And I said, I'm misquoting myself, but it's like, how has AI had you look at your humanity?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where are you? Because people are all worried about, AI is going to take over their careers, their lives, or whatever. And they should be worried because it's going to happen. That those things are going to happen. But if you examine the parts of you which are human,
right,
that's where your edge is.
Yeah.
Right. That is where your edge is. So to me, it's forcing me to dig deeper into my own thoughts and my own basis for being a person. And I'm not really worried about the fact that it's writing things faster than I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. And that's what I really try to impart on my students, people I work with, is that to me, being human doesn't mean, having all these bills and tasks that I have to pay and deal with. Let my personal agent do that for me so that I can live
That's cool.
area right? So very much aligned. And I'd love to hear more. So this program came to you, you marinated, you said, oh, this is my next thing. It's only been out for 10 days.
About 10 days. Yeah.
So talk to us about quantum reality creation. What does it mean to you? What will people get out of it? What are some of the things you take people through?
So it is a manifestation program. If I say on steroids, it's such a cliche, but it's a good cliche. You
Mhm.
know, it's a turbocharged manifestation program. In quantum physics, there's an idea called the many worlds interpretation. And the many worlds interpretation says that when a conscious being makes a choice, a new universe forks off, and that there are an infinite number of universes, and they're populated like the one we're in, and in many of those universes exists alternate versions of you. Alternate versions of you who have already accomplished the things you want to accomplish, who've already have the things you want to have, who have characteristics you'd like to have. It's like they have the be-do-haves of you, of what you want to have. So all of those react, and because you think about it, that creates that reality. So there's nothing that you can think about. This is all the science of quantum physics, that there's nothing that you can think about that doesn't exist in an alternate universe. So what the program teaches you is A, how to identify that, and then B, how to align your frequency with that alternate version of you that has the specific things that you're looking for at that moment. And when you align your frequency with that alternate version of you, and often some dimension somewhere, that you, by resonance, attract to you the characteristics you're looking for. So you might have this all down and know exactly what you want and so on. But I talked to a guy this morning who's in the program, and he said the minute he started using the program, and he literally said the minute, he said things started to shift in his life. And he started doing the program, and he's doing sales work. He's doing high ticket closer stuff. And he said he started doing the program. He did like 1 or 2 modules in the program, and he had his best day ever as a closer. And things have continued to happen to him since he started doing the program. So it's not that he was manifesting anything in particular. He just started manifesting good things. And it's pretty wild to hear this stuff, like instant, boom. So that's fundamentally what the program is. It's a lot of how-tos. Mm-hmm. The videos or tell the story of what's going on. But I created these things I call activation guides. Okay. And each module has an activation guide, which is how do you take the theory that I just jammed into this 5-minute piece? All the videos are short. They're all 5 minutes or less. And I've jammed all this theory and all this woo into this video. And then here's the activation guide. This is how you put this to use. This is how you bring this into reality. So it's a lot of how do I align myself with what I want? People are always aligning themselves with something. They're right. Always manifesting something. I get this all the time. People say, I'm no good at manifesting. I said, sure you are. I said, let me prove it to you. I said, think of something that you really didn't want to happen. That happened. How do you think that happened? It happened because negative emotions are easier to bring forth than positive ones. Negative emotions are a survival mechanism. You should be happy about them. Fear is a survival mechanism. If you didn't have fear, your ancestors would have been eaten by the saber-toothed tigers, and that would have been that, Whereas fear keeps you from doing stupid things, and it keeps you alive. So all of that negativity is useful. And in terms of survival is more useful than all the good ideas, than all the good stuff. The good stuff is what raises your vibration. The bad stuff is what keeps you alive. And, that's an important distinction to make. So people are really good at saying no. I teach this to salespeople all the time. It's like people are really good at saying no. It's a survival mechanism. That's how they keep their resources. And they say no not to get spread thin. They say no for a variety of reasons, but they're all based in survival. So you have to overcome people's survival mechanism to get them to buy your stuff, which is to say yes, so that they can be raised to a new level of vibration.
Yeah.
So, that whole thing is really, really critical. And we are so much better at saying no and being fearful and having all the negative emotions that's how we manifest all this negative stuff. And people go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And then once they realize they're great manifestors, then we can take and package the exact same mechanism that they use to manifest bad stuff to manifest good stuff. Same mechanism, just have to change the emotion.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I could just ask you questions for days. We are going to have many more conversations. That is a given. But to wrap up this particular part one, let's just say part one interview, where do you want me to direct people? Do you want me to direct people to quantum reality creation? I can have that, the website that we put in the show notes.
Let's do that. I'll do the pitch. I launched this as a half off special, and I included in it access to me to make sure that people who were early in the program got everything they needed to give me great case studies. That was my whole rationale. So the URL I gave you still points to the half off website. So go ahead and go to the half off website and get the deal. Get the deal. And I'm very excited about putting this in people's hands. I think that I've mentioned this to you earlier. I think this is my best work ever. It's a culmination of a lot of things that I've worked on. And I believe that following the program, doing the work is life-changing.
Amazing.
I really feel like that strongly about it, that it's like, and the people who are taking the program are already reporting life-changing results. So that's where I want you to send people. That's the thing that I'm most excited about.
Well, Paul, this has been amazing. Your energy, your enthusiasm radiates through, your work speaks for itself. Anybody can Google you, go to your website, go check out the different things that you've done. That's why I didn't really get into asking you, like, what's your best story from a client? Because I feel like we're beyond that. And I'm really excited. I'm going to be diving into your program. And
cool.
I will absolutely tell all of my listeners how it's going for me. And everybody, if you're watching this, if you're listening to it, make sure you check out the show notes, because we will have that special link in the show notes just for you. Is there any last comment you'd like to make before we end?
I talk to people about meditation all the time. And a lot of people who struggle with meditating on their own turn to guided meditations. My concern about guided meditations is they don't empty out your mind. They leave. And I'm not saying anything bad about this. I love listening. For instance, I listen to Joe Dispenza's guided meditations. I find them wonderful. But I think one of the tricks is to be open to receiving, to have it, the whole Japanese story about tea from an empty cup, right? Like, you can't fill tea into a full cup. It just pours out onto the floor. So you really have to be willing to empty out your mind and listen and pay attention to the messages you're getting. And if you just do that simple thing, make yourself open to the messages that are coming to you. I guarantee you they're coming to you, but you've been ignoring them and not knowing what you're hearing. And so they don't have any impact on you. And the people, whoever that source is that provides those messages, after a while, if you don't act on them, they stop giving them to you, because you're like, we're going to waste our time with this person. They're not doing anything. So open your mind up, empty it out, be willing to receive, and act on those strange things that happen that you can't explain. And your life will absolutely change.
I think that's a perfect message to end with today.
Good.
So thank you so much for giving me your time.
It's my pleasure.
Really enjoyed this. I know that everybody who's listening is also getting a lot of value and hopefully excitement and enthusiasm around your next step as you're listening to this. How do you be open to receiving? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
It changed my life when I started paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to change everybody's life who's listening or watching right now. And I can't wait to hear those stories. So let me have them, audience. Let me have them. Tell me what's happening once you are open to receiving. And with that, I'll be back again with another amazing guest to impart some wisdom on you in the very near future. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.